Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to All India Radio Houston. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM, your host, and we will be here for the next hour. This is a talk show where we focus in depth on one or two topics that are of interest to you. If you would like to follow us on Facebook, search for the Houston Indians page and click the like button. You will get latest information, news, views from around the world, and calendar of events in and around Houston. You can join in the conversation by calling 281-983-9550. The telephone number again is 281-983-9550. If you would like to be a guest on this program, please contact us at 281-265-7567. This program in part has been sponsored by Sugarland Heart Center. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to All India Radio Houston. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM, and we have very special guests in the studio here this afternoon. And as you know, this is the Diwali season for the Indian community, the celebration of the New Year's, and you'll see Diwali being celebrated in various parts of Houston and the surrounding areas. Just make sure that you go to one of these Diwali festivals and enjoy the true spirit of Indian New Year. In fact, Diwali is going to be celebrated at the Bab's temple, and we are going to have one of the representatives call us during the hour, and we are also going to be talking about the Diwali festival on Open Forum. That is tomorrow, Saturday, from 4 to 5 p.m. So please do make sure to call in and tell us what you think about Diwali. What does Diwali mean to you? Welcome again. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM, and we have very special guests here in the studio. We're going to have two programs. One, we're going to talk about politics. Yes, indeed, politics. Second, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about before you sign on a dotted line when you're trying to buy a refurbished car. So let me get started here, and Linda Vega, an attorney who has been practicing immigration law for the past 30 years, and she is running for the United States Senate. And she is here in the studio, so if you would like to call and ask questions, the number to call here is 281-983-9550. Again, let me give you the number. It's 281-983-9550. Let's start with our first guest, Linda Vega. Welcome to All India Radio. All India Radio, we are delighted to have you.
Thank you very much.
I think this is probably your first exposure to the Indian and Pakistani community, I would hope.
Yes, it is actually, and I can you hear me?
Yeah.
I wanted to say that you either just made me a genius or a very older person, because I've been practicing for 20 years.
Oh, 20 years? Oh, okay, that's good. Well,
but thank you for the compliment.
Let's stand corrected. 20 years of immigration law. In fact, we are going to be talking about immigration as such as we go along. Before we make any further progress, what I would like to know, or our listeners would like to know, is a little bit about your background, and what already said you're an immigration attorney, and what got you interested in politics, and also if you have held any office before at the city, county, or state level. Let's start with that.
Okay, those are a lot of questions. Okay, let me start with, I was born in Weslaco, Texas, which is a small town near the border. I attended high school down there. I went to UT in Austin with a full scholarship, and then I went to law school in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
and worked up there for a while, and then lived Europe for a few years and came
uh-huh.
back to the United States and eventually back to Texas.
Oh, what part of Europe were you?
I lived in the Azores in Portugal.
Oh, Portugal? Mm-hmm. In fact, my daughter spent a year doing an MBA in Paris, Fontainebleau.
Wonderful.
So I'm a little bit familiar with the French, and because I spent some time there. Oh, okay. Let's talk about what got you interested in politics all the way to the Senate level.
Oh, well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I have always been involved in the political scene with my party, but always leading from behind, writing checks and block walking for candidates and helping them get the vote, obviously in my community, the Latino community. Yes. And I just didn't see any change coming. The same people kept getting elected, and our country somehow didn't prosper enough. And except for the state of Texas, where we have a high prosperity because of our good governor, Rick Perry. But I did not see any progress going along. And then came things like Obamacare, policies that were not generated to bring prosperity. And then came the ineffectiveness of not passing immigration law, and I thought we need a change.
So you felt there was a strong need for a different direction in Washington.
Absolutely.
I guess majority of the Americans would feel that way, especially after this debt ceiling debacle and all these other things that are going on in Washington with gridlock on practically every issue. So let's hear from you with points. What do you think is wrong with our country in terms of Washington politics?
Well, I think exactly what I pointed before. We keep electing the same individuals, expecting a different policy or different laws to come about, and we cannot seem to get out of the system that in order to bring effective rebuilding of this country, we need to elect different individuals with new ideas and regain our structure of prosperity, which is really what we should focus on in the United States in our concept of education. A good education leads,
we're going to come to all those.
Sure.
Okay, well, when you say we are electing, what I should say, leaders who are not doing their job right as most of us would think would be, does this apply to both parties or all the three parties?
I think it applies to all the parties, that are in Washington at the moment. And in Texas, we have 34 congressional districts.
Yes.
Only 2 women representing that. Women are a large majority in Texas, and so we need better representation. Our current senator, whom I'm running against, John Cornyn, has been there for 12 years. And in those 12 years, I cannot seem to recall what effective legislation he put forth to bring prosperity to Texas or to help any matter in Texas. So this is a type of difference or change now that we need.
Okay, let's begin with what are your views and, how you want to accomplish that. We're going to start with the economy. Just in points, can you tell us what's wrong with the economy from your point of view and what you would like to do to see a different outcome?
Well, we have a $17 trillion debt, for starters. That's what's wrong with our economy. And we are failing in various other 49 states to enter into programs to bring prosperity or job creation in those states. In Texas, we have a very beautiful prosperity plan. We have what is called the red state model. We are investing in education. We are creating good policies for those who want to attend college, those who want to be admitted into college. And so we are producing a well-educated population of young people who are going to be the job creators and the job earners. And I think that is the model that we need to take to Washington.
So specifically, what would you like to I know as a junior senator, you may not have a whole lot of clout, but nonetheless, it all starts with a seed of idea. What particular concepts you would like to see implemented if you are elected as the senator in terms of economy?
Well, I'd like to set forth policies that create prosperity. For example, this idea of Obamacare is not going to create prosperity, is actually going to hurt our employment rate because many people are going to find themselves being employed part-time or employed at all. It's also going to cost the average family $1,200 to $1,500 a year, which they cannot even fathom of how to produce or put money forth on the table. And our state government will have to pick up a large portion of that. So that money is not free. This insurance is not free. Someone has to pay for it. So we have to develop better policies for that. And obviously to dive into or to cut back on the $17 trillion debt, we have to be realistic and cut some programs. And we need to look at what agencies in the U.S. government are working and what programs are not helping our families.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. I mean, I can keep asking questions, but
sure.
I would like to cover just very quickly several different topics. And I would just like, maybe if you can specifically say what you would do differently from all the candidates who are there now in the Senate and also in the House. Let's move on to education. During every election we hear people talking about, we're going to change education, we're going to educate the entire American population, and all kinds of promises. But once the elections are over, we don't hear anything about education anymore. So in the field of education, what would be your specific one or two tasks that you want to bring to the Senate and see that it's accomplished?
Well, education, I think, is a state's right or is parents' rights.
Yeah.
I see communities here in Texas, the Indian community, the Chinese community, who educate their children, not only in just the school, but outside of school. They really make the effort to put forth tutoring programs or engage them in certain activities that help their education, because the idea is you are going to get a quality education, and it's not just up to the school systems, but parents should be able to choose which schools that their children can attend. And if children are mostly gifted in the STEM area, the science, technology, engineering, and medical field, then perhaps we should gear students more toward that. In Texas here, we have wonderful charter schools that emphasize that. Harmony Schools is one of them. And that is perhaps based because the Texas legislature allows that. Parents need to be more involved in their students. I can't recall, to the best of my knowledge, what the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. does except collect data on graduation on all over the country. But ensure that more programs are geared toward educating our children.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to All India Radio. Our guest is Linda Vega. She's running for Senate seat. The primaries are in March, and she's running against incumbent John Cornyn. The number to call here is 281-983-9550. She'll be here for next 15 minutes or so. So please do call in and get your questions answered. In the meantime, let's move on to energy. Texas is the energy capital.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we can't get any kind of alternative energy package in Texas from my perspective. Maybe I may be wrong. Maybe you can enlighten. What kind of energy problems do we have all across the country? What would you like to see change in the energy field?
Well, in the energy field in Texas, obviously the energy that we do have creates jobs. And that is really the focus, that we want to create the prosperity of jobs. Our families are taken care of very well in Texas as a result of it. Now, in alternative energy, there are programs coming into Texas, but are they job creators? Are they good for the economy? And certainly regulations by the EPA create a gridlock for prosperity when we start implementing regulations that do not allow businesses to create opportunities, especially here in Texas. So I am all for alternative energy, provided that they create prosperity for our families.
Well, like the computer in the 1980s costed like $5,000 for like a 2 megabyte hard drive, something which I paid.
Sure.
Today, you can get a 5 terabyte hard drive for like $100.
Sure.
But unless the technology is advanced through federal support and grants, because in California, they have solar energy, which a lot of people who employ this, their meters are running backwards. They are getting money from the electric companies. So at a federal level, as a senator, what kind of things you would like to see for development of alternative energies?
Well, that's an interesting point that you bring up, because last time I checked, California is in debt and is not prospering because of their programs that they have. Now, in Texas, if you travel up to Lubbock, we have wind energy up there that didn't turn out as lucrative as people thought who were investing in it. And I think the structure, again, has to be what prosperity is a type of energy that you want to bring in, costing our country, and what type of prosperity for our families is it creating. There have been many projects that promise green energy as an alternative but seldom deliver, and I think we have to be cautious on that, to plummet so much money into a project that's not going to give us anything.
Okay, let's move on to, you're an immigration lawyer, and I think you're probably the expert on this field. Maybe common people like us who don't deal with immigration on a daily basis, maybe you can explain it in simple terms. What is the immigration problem and what you plan to do to address this? As a Texas resident, which we are facing significantly the immigration problem, and at the Senate level, for the at the national level.
Well, in short sum, our immigration law is not working. It's an antiquated, old law that's trying to be applied to modern needs of our economy that we have. We don't have we have quotas in our immigration system that keep us from bringing new talent and new job creation into the United States. So we have to overhaul that particular part of the law, reform it, if you will, because there is no other way. In 2001, the law was created to ease up the bottlenecking of visas that were there, and we promised people that they could apply, but we forgot to tell them that the visa availability was just not there for them. So we keep passing these reforms every 10 years without really finding a proper solution. So we have to ease up on the quota at least for 2 to 3 years and create jobs for the. We keep hearing the number 11 million undocumented in the United States.
Yes, I was going to come to
and
the illegal aliens question.
Yes, well, 11 million of those people, not all of them entered here illegally, first of all. 40% came here with a visa. And there's a certain percentage, and we're not clear what that is, of people who are waiting for their visa availability because the government has these quotas or their applications are not processed correctly. And we keep promising people things that we cannot deliver. So we have to fix that if we really want to fix the immigration problem.
You know, if you say you're trying to get visa for foreigners, for skilled workers and all this, with such high unemployment rate where majority of the highly trained technical people in this country have lost jobs and have no hope of getting a replacement type of job, what are we doing in terms of re-educating them or retraining them to fill in these kind of gaps?
Well, you know, that is a problem because immigrants are nomadic people. They will go where the job creation is, right? They don't have a choice. If they want their visa, they're going to go live in Detroit, for example. And sometimes as Americans, we are committed to our community. We seldom want to move to places. So we either have to create jobs around that area where that person is unemployed or provide better opportunity. But we cannot use the U.S. economy as a stalling matter of not allowing other people to come here and create jobs or prosperity for us. That's
very good. Let's move on to, there's a lot of buzz about the National Security Administration, all these leaks and all these things, and now, you know, questions about tapping into international heads of states and all these things. What are your views on the national security position? Are they doing the right thing? Or what kind of things you would like to see done?
America's security, of course, is very important. And after 2011, there were a lot of questions raised as to who was trying to harm us. And I think it is an agency that has gone over or usurped its authority in wanting to hear every possible conversation in our lives. Now, there's a point that we have to draw the line. Is it for our security purposes or is it just overbearing? And certainly we can't, as Americans, give away our liberty as an excuse for national security standards. On the other hand, we do have to be cautious about who is trying to harm us because we can never forget 9/11. And it's something that all of us, I think, live in terror of. Could it happen again? So there's a fine line, and perhaps we can meet in the middle as to how to gradually secure our country without infringing on our liberties.
Okay, let's talk about, I'm a doctor, so the next question is going to directly be of interest to me and also every common citizen in this country. That's the Obamacare.
Sure.
And I know what your point of view is on Obamacare. I would like to just tell us what's wrong with Obamacare and what you all plan to do to bring some sort of a healthcare coverage, if at all, for all those 47 plus million people who don't have insurance.
Well, first of all, we have to defund it, but we have to replace it with something that's good, an alternative that is going to help our problem in medicine. Access of care here in Texas is, we have access of care. We have good county hospitals in Texas, and we have clinics around Texas, even in rural areas that are available for people. So that is really not a big problem to us here in Texas. What is a problem is the cost of implementing. Already $3 million has been spent on trying to fill out the forms, trying to figure out how to implement Obamacare. And $3 million is coming from someone's pocket, right? So it's obviously coming from our pocket because we have to pay for it. Now, as I said earlier, a family of 4 is going to have to pay $1,200 to $1,500 a year to be able to buy into this insurance. And the state's going to pay 10%. In 3-4 years, the state's going to pay at least 90 to 100% of it. You would think that's a good thing, but that money has to come from somewhere. And so who is going to end up paying for it is the taxpayer. You and I are going to fork over that money.
Why is the Republican Party having so much problem explaining all these things to the public in a language they can understand? Because obviously it is not making an impact on the public. I mean, if there is such a crisis of financial burden from this Obamacare, which to a certain extent I can understand because I have been listening to stories where people switched from a regular insurance to Obamacare regulated insurance, where their premiums went up, their deductibles skyrocketed and things like that. Why is the Republican Party having so much problem explaining what is exactly that it's going to do?
Well, because we keep hearing different stories about what it's supposed to do. On the one hand, we have our Secretary of Health and Human Services apologizing for it. We have the President apologizing for it. More people are apologizing for it. That I think we've become distracted as to what exactly the problem is. When we hear so many I'm sorries, we're a public that is compassionate. We tend to forgive, and then all of a sudden it looks like such a good idea. But it's not feasible, and especially not feasible for us here in Texas.
Okay, that's very good. I still have a long list of questions, but it looks like we are just about running out of time. Time flies fast when you are having fun.
Oh, I'm glad.
And what I should say is, Linda Vega is an attorney. She's running for United States Senate against John Cornyn. And the primaries are in March, and she's going to be on open forum next Saturday from 5 to 6. So she'll be there for a whole hour. Then you're welcome to call and make your comments or ask your questions. Now, finally, let's talk about you're running against John Cornyn.
Sure.
And tell us why he's not the right candidate for the Senate, so you would like to, take his place.
Okay, thank you for that question. Senator Cornyn has been there 12 years, and he has promised to represent and protect Texas and offer legislation that's good for our country or our state, because that's who he represents. But in the last 12 years, he's voted against various policies that have troubled me. One, he voted against the Violence Against Women Act that protects women who are in abused relationships. That bothered me. Then he voted for this particular immigration bill that certainly needed amendments. It wasn't perfect, but then he voted against it. So to pass it. And being the senator of the state with the largest border, I would think he would have been actively involved in those gang of 8 who were at least trying to propose something. So that was problematic to me. And certainly with Obamacare, he voted against it, but he didn't offer an alternative solution. And it was instead up to Senator Cruz to filibuster or attempt to bring attention to this problem that I think was bigger than we thought. So I've been disappointed that he's not leading us into anything he's just there. He's by the wayside waiting, and he intercepts when it's feasible to him, not when it's feasible for Texas. And I think Texas deserves better leadership.
So what do you think are your chances of winning the primary?
I think if we get 600,000 votes, there is a great chance that I will be your new senator. And I am urging people not just to register, but to get involved, civically involved. We're a state with 26 million people. 600,000 votes should be nothing. Houston is a population of 8 to 9 million. So 600,000 votes is feasible if I can just encourage and motivate people to get to vote.
Thank you very much, Linda Vega, and she's running for United States Senate against John Cornyn. This has been just an introduction to Linda Vega, and she's going to be making a lot of appearances on a lot of Desi programs, and of course she's going to be on Open Forum on 1480 AM. That's from 5 to 6 p.m. and you can tune into 1480 AM. That is next Saturday, and she will be there, and we'll be delighted to talk to her again. On behalf of All India Radio Houston, we want to thank you very much for your time, and wish you good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to All India Radio Houston on 1090 AM. This is a talk show where we focus on one or two topics in depth on a variety of subjects. If you would like to hear on a particular topic, call us or send us an email, and we will try to get experts to share their views and opinions. If you would like to be a guest on this program and share your views, please give us a call at 281-265-7567 or send us an email at drniknikam@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook under the keyword Houston Indians. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will join you again at 3 p.m. next Friday.